Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone coming on to our event, Not Without Us, Feminist Voices in Climate Justice Struggles. We're just getting started now, I just wanted to inform everyone that Pat Boland will be our technical person today. So any technical issues that you might encounter throughout this session, you can write directly to her. And also to me, Isadora or Dinda, who will be your moderators today. Welcome again, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. And yeah, thank you so much for making this, for being present. We are very excited to getting started. We're just waiting a few more minutes until more people come in. We already have all our speakers on board. And yeah, I would like to ask everyone, you might be used to that already, but everyone, when you're not speaking, to please mute yourself. And also you can use the chat box or react whenever you want and whenever other people are speaking. Again, for the people who are coming just now, I wanted to say that if you have any technical issues during the session, please write to Pat Boland and she'll be able to help you. Okay, Dinda, I think we can start, right?
Yeah, sure.
Good.
Thank you, Isa, and yeah, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening for all of you, and thank you very much for present here. And then we really hope that today we're gonna have some conversations, because basically our topic today is talking about how we bring feminist voices in the climate justice struggles, and we know that talking about feminists, this is something that really relate with all women, or even other groups. And then we are really learning from our experiences. That's the spirit and the reason that we are now in this struggle together. And it's really important to having conversation and sharing, and probably we can strengthening each other, give and show solidarity and etc. It's really bad that we cannot meet in person. We are still in the middle of pandemic, and we really hope that it will be passed soon. But we really glad that we can meet you here, and hopefully it can give the same meaning or the same fruitful discussions between us. And again, welcome to the Not Without Us, Feminist Voices in Climate Justice Struggles event. We will present stories from a couple of continent event, from Ecuador, South Africa, India, and also I will probably a little bit sharing something from Indonesia, and how we are also raising feminist and women's issues in our local climate justice struggle, and then how to connect it into advocacy in national level and also in the international level. And Isadora and me will moderate these sessions, and we will start with a short round of questions and answers with our three colleagues on the panel. Now we can see Strada and Defile, and we also expecting Melissa will be joined soon. And then the stories are about our work and experiences to harmful climate practices, and how it's also impact to our life, since we are also working with the community, and then how the community participatory processes for climate justice also become one of our works all these times. And we will discuss how we and fellow civil society collective use strategies to shape feminism to shape feminist and just response and fair or just response to climate change. So we think it is important to take up a few spaces existing in the rather exclusive UNFCCC. Well, we've discussed before, for examples, about a lot of challenges through this space, but it's still important for us to reclaim our space here. But it's not only to advocate for people's demands, but also to make sure these spaces are representative of our diversity in society, our diverse realities, because we are coming from diverse backgrounds and we have diverse stories that we want to share to you all. So it is a fundamental matter of justice to put the people most affected by climate change, such as marginalized group and to put them at the center of the discussion and decision of climate change. So we care about sharing our stories and creating such spaces for more people and collective to join and be able to share their stories as well. So we are looking forward to hearing from you, from the participants as well. So we have launched a Medium platform. This is also a promotions from us because we really happily sharing some of the inspiring stories and also strategies that probably can be used by other collective or other groups, and we really invite you to visit and contribute to our web at the medium.com/notwithout-us. So Isa will explain more about the projects, and yeah, I give over to you, Isa.
Yeah, thank you, Dinda. Yeah, so just to introduce and give you a few background on our history of the project Not Without Us. We started back in 2017 through the climate negotiations. And so that's more or less this space of the UNFCCC where we met in person and we started doing things together. And we are somehow involved, all of us, we are somehow involved in the Women and Gender Constituency with whom we collaborate, and also with other climate justice movements and alliances that are part of the international or transnational movements for climate change, for climate justice, sorry. And the aim of our project, it is to basically promote the integration of gender justice, of the principles of feminism and also gender justice in not only in the international negotiations on climate change, but also on the movement, on the climate justice movement. We care about including that feminist principles, intersectional feminist principles are integrated in these various spaces. And we have been working together with other comrades, which are not necessarily in the project with us, for us to be able to make our stories and our struggles at local level visible, but also a reality for decision making and also for the many movements and alliances that we build transnationally. We are currently the project, we are activists and gender experts from different countries, as Dinda said. We are currently 8 people, and we come from diverse backgrounds, from social, natural science, and climate or women's movements, but we all try to connect this work and these knowledges that we have been working with in the local level or in the national level to the international and transnational movements and advocacy that we do at the UNFCCC level. And yeah, just to say it again, another important part of our project is that we share a lot of knowledge among ourselves. We learn a lot among ourselves and with our allies, sorry. And we always are in exchanging on various topics like feminist, queer, racial justice, and how these aspects, they actually, they are connected to the issue of climate change and climate action. And I just wanted to say that the project is run with the support of the Rosa Luxemburg Foundation, with funds of the Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development of the Republic of Germany. And so thank you very much for the support of the foundation and to make this project happen. So Dinda, please.
As Isa said, there is 8 of us, and we are coming from, we are an activist and also organizations from Brazil, Ecuador, Germany, India, Indonesia, South Africa. And in 2019, we had the participation of an activist also from Fiji. And but here on the panel, there are already some of us who very excited to share to you, not only share actually, but exchange with you. So we really hope that you can also share a lot of things with us. So we have Melissa Moreano. She is working with the Colectivo de Geografía Crítica, and she is also with the Universidad Adina Simón Bolívar in Ecuador. And then we also have Srada Srijaya. She working with Mamakesh in India. And also Devile Mokoena, working with Gender CC Women for Climate Justice in South Africa. Devile also in the Women and Gender constituency, and probably can share more about how civil society later. And then I am Dinda Nur Anissa Yura. You can call me Dinda. I'm working with Solidaritas Perempuan, or Women Solidarity for Human Rights in Indonesia. And here is my colleague Isadora Cardoso, working with Gender CC Women for Climate Justice in Germany. So let's start. And I think we have some exciting method to start.
So first, we would like to show you a video, and for that, I hope it works, because it can be quite tricky with Zoom. But I will ask Pat, our tech helper, if it's okay to show that before we start with the questions to Melissa.
Yo soy Antonella Calle del colectivo Yas Unidos. Yas Unidos nacemos en el 2013 a partir de que Rafael Correa decide cancelar la iniciativa Yasuní TT. La iniciativa Yasuní TT lo que planteaba es dejar el crudo del Yasuní en el subsuelo a cambio de una compensación económica por los países que históricamente han contaminado. Desde ahí nace la iniciativa de recoger firmas para ir a una consulta popular, que el pueblo ecuatoriano decida sobre si explotar o no. Se recogieron todas las firmas que eran necesarias, pero fueron puestas como si fueran falsas, no válidas, y así se descalificaron más del 60%, violando los derechos de participación de 757,000 personas que firmaron a favor de una consulta. Tenemos las firmas necesarias y también más del 1 por 1000, ¿no?, de las firmas. Si en verdad se quiere combatir el cambio climático, hay que replantearse el modelo extractivo. El foco de discusión no está ahí porque hay intereses económicos y se caen estos discursos muy superficiales de salve el planeta, usa una funda de tela, ¿no? El cambio climático / extractivismo con el patriarcado van mucho de la mano. Los dos sistemas plantean o buscan beneficiar a unos pocos a costa de la vida, básicamente, en resumen, de otros seres vivos. Creo que es algo urgente que siempre esta lucha por el cambio climático vaya de la mano del feminismo. Es pensar la vida desde una manera mucho más horizontal. Estamos luchando por unos territorios, por el agua, por la vida y cosas así, pero no estamos luchando de la mano con nuestras compañeras que también están exigiendo autonomía de sus cuerpos, de sus vidas, que no les toquen, que no les violen, que no les maten, cosas muy básicas como exigimos con el tema de la naturaleza. Si no nos pensamos interseccionalmente en los espacios, si no pensamos que en donde está la lucha contra el cambio climático tiene que estar el feminismo, no podemos seguir caminando o luchando juntos, porque no vamos a aceptar más espacios sin nosotros.
Hey, thank you, Pat. I hope everyone was able to hear well and to see that. And I also uploaded the link to our page where you can watch the full series Macana, which was conceptualized by our colleague Melissa Moriano, who is here and who I would like to now ask a question about not only the issues that were portrayed in the documentary series that Melissa conceptualized, but also I would like to ask Mel, so warm welcome, good morning Ecuador, good morning Quito. Thanks for joining us. I know it's quite early there. We are interested to know more about, the involvement of civil society and also especially feminist ecologists that you've been working with, for example, in the case of the video Macana. How is the involvement of civil society and these feminist ecologist groups in Ecuador in climate policy process, for example? Can you tell us a little bit more about this story?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Isa. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Thank you for being here, and thank you for the question and for having chosen the video, Antonella's video for showing it in this session. Thank you very much. I was thinking a lot in this issue because in Ecuador, as you saw in the video, the issue of climate change is not quite clear. No, I think that we're not facing, or we are not realizing that we're facing impacts of climate change already on the ground. The big issue that we face here is extractive industry, oil extraction and big mining extraction now, large scale mining. So feminist ecologists are very concerned about that. And they are fighting, as you saw in the video, this movement, Yes Unidos, is fighting oil extraction in the northern Amazon in Ecuador. But as Antonella said, there is we are making this connection between oil extraction and climate change, and how oil extraction produces climate change, and then how the people that are affected by oil extraction will be affected the most by climate change. And inside that people, of course, indigenous women will be affected a lot. So we've been working with indigenous people, trying to understand how climate change will affect them, affect us in the cities also. But we are very concerned more on the impacts, more than in the impacts of climate change. We are very concerned about what we call the false solutions to climate change, REDD+ and all these mechanisms related to forests that are linked with market mechanisms, with carbon market mechanisms that we think that will threaten indigenous territories in the Amazon, most of all. So when I first went to the COPs, my goal was trying to understand how these mechanisms were going to work, to bring that information back home and continue working in this resistance to false solutions. And on the other side, the civil society involvement in the public policy making, for example, in climate change is very scarce. It's growing. We have a growing participation. For example, we conformed 2 years ago, I think, a gender and climate change technical advisory table, yeah, and a board, well, and technical advisory board for the process of building the national NDC. No, but this process is very, very difficult because they use a very technical language. The process is very font dependent. It depends a lot on international funding. It depends on the political willingness of the state. And also this space is very urban, middle class women dominated. We come from universities, from NGOs. There are no indigenous women. There are not women of color. So it's a very, very whitish process, And I'm not sure that the voices of the women in the ground are being heard in this process, because you come to the process with an agenda that is already established, you know, and you can participate, but inside this agenda. So it's very, very, very at initial stages, I think. Yeah, and the biggest participation and the biggest strength is in the mobilization against oil extraction and now large-scale mining.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mel. I think it's really important to the thing that highlighted by Mel, that there are a lot of people out there who probably not really understand about UNFCCC, about SAPSTA, about APA, etc. But they are really have their fight also on the ground to resist the extractive industry, for example, as we know that the extractive industry also the main causes of the climate crisis that we face right now. Also in Indonesia, I think we also discussed, we have similar situations regarding the forestry project and etc. So we are not only resist the climate crisis root cause, but also the project that claim as a mitigation or adaptation of the climate change, but in fact it's grabbing our lands and causing the same problems that we always call the climate false solutions. So thank you for sharing, and we will back to you in next sessions. And now I want to invite Defile to also share about what happened in South Africa. I mean, Defile also working with the agriculture issues, and we really want to hear from you. How do you see the impact of climate crisis that happened right now to the local communities in South Africa? And then also, can you tell us a little bit more about where you are, where you base, and how climate change and climate policies have been impacting the local communities? Or you can also share if something more specific, for example, like the agriculture or lands. So please, Defile.
Thank you so much, Dinda. Hello, everyone, and thank you for attending our session. I will start by saying our organization is based in Johannesburg, in South Africa, and the focus of our organization is on gender and climate justice, and we work with communities. Most of the communities that we work with are from urban and peri-urban areas. We do touch in rural areas, however, because of challenges of proximity, we only have few rural areas that we work with. However, as an organization or working on climate change, when we mobilize communities to try and bring awareness of climate change, as the impacts of climate change were intensifying, and we could see how communities were suffering. So in South Africa, it's better when you work with community, you work with organized communities, because you don't just, grab people and put them in one hall and start talking to them. Because there are challenges of local structures, there are challenges of male dominance and so forth. Now, as we were working with already organized communities from from different areas, the cooperatives, the local community-based organizations, we tried to explain what is climate change and try to find out from them, now that they know what is climate change and they understand, how are they impacted? What is it that they can see around them? What are the issues that are coming forth? Now, we had a group of women coming from different backgrounds. We had women who were working on housing issues in their communities, water, electricity, and those who are involved in informal businesses. And also a majority of them were farmers, small-scale farmers. Now, as they were bringing up the issues, we found that in their various sectors, areas of work, there is one common factor that is affecting them all, which is energy. Then we started forming a forum called Women in Energy and Climate Change Forum. Now, women will come and bring their different issues. And at that time, in the country, we had the first climate change policy that was coming out, a white paper. And we mobilized, we advocated, we tried to look for sane people, within the department and the parliament who can help us, that we can have a platform during the public hearings in parliament so that women can go and present their cases. Because when we read the climate change white paper, there was nothing that was referring to women. And we knew that women were adversely affected and they were on the coalface of climate change. And eventually we succeeded and we managed to get a few women to parliament to go and present their cases, how as women they are affected by climate change. And also they had to present in their own local languages, because in South Africa we have 11 official languages. We had to fight for that as well, because we were told in parliament the official language is English. We said, no, these are local women who can't express themselves well in English, who you won't get the picture of how they are impacted, what is happening in their lives if they have to express themselves in English because they are not fluent in English. And they were able then to express themselves in their own local languages. Now, as I mentioned, that majority of these women are small-scale farmers. And the impact of climate change that they are affected with is a lot of flooding, a lot of droughts, and also sometimes you have heat waves. And they could see that there are changes in the climate because of the different crops that are coming up, or at times there's no harvest at all. When they were doing they are planting the crops. Harvest time, a tomato will come out orange in color, or a different color that they are used to. And they started getting different kinds of worms, from the soil. The soil was getting hard and ugly. So that was an indication that there's something that is happening, on the ground and within the weather patterns. Now, besides the impacts of climate change, there are also other gender and social issues that women suffer from. And the main thing is access to land. These women, they are the main providers for their families. They take care of families. Most of them are single mothers. However, they can't even access land to start making their own, to grow their own food, Most of them are unemployed. So that was another struggle that we have to go to the local municipal area and ask for land from local clinics, from local schools, from local churches. And they didn't have the struggle with access to credit and access to markets, that when they have their harvest, they can't even access markets to be able to sell it. And that's a different case altogether to their male counterparts. They were preferred over them. And even if they go to the local authorities to state their case, there will be some political interference, or there will be some demand of favors as women. So those are the challenges, that women face at local level. And now when it comes to advocating for a change in policies and bringing their voices, to the authorities, we run workshops and we make sure that during the public hearing, when the government are doing public consultation, we make sure that the women are represented there and they are able to raise their voice. And there's also issues with that because the government, they don't use proper consultation methods. Usually what they do, they will invite researchers in universities and international NGOs, the Oxfams and so forth. And because we have been raising our voice, shouting very loud, as Gender CC, they know us, they will, invite us. But to them, that's consultation, that's participation. And they don't get down to the local people, the very people who are feeling the impact of climate change. So we try and mobilize them to take them to those consultation meetings and urge the government as well that they have to go to the people rather than people going to them because they'll struggle with transport getting there. So those are some of the issues that we are faced with. And Gender CC, we also have a project where we advocate for integration of gender into climate change policies. And we work with the local government and with the national government. And that is a very difficult issue because it's only recent that the country is getting into terms with climate change, understanding what is climate change, especially at local level. The local government, it's only now starting to talk about climate change, coming up with climate change actions, programs at local level. I mean, even within the churches, various sectors, everyone is talking about climate change. But the nexus of gender into climate change is still a big issue. However, a consolation is that the national government is doing something about the integration of gender, and they are working together with us as an organization. We do have a gender equality framework policy. However, the climate change policy still lacks a gender component in it. And when we are in these discussions, the government will talk about having a reference, just mentioning the name gender equality or woman. We said that is not enough. We just don't want the word appearing there or a reference to gender equality. But, you have to talk about gender responsive policies, not only gender sensitive policies, because there is a difference. Gender responsive policies where the climate change actions and response measures are able to address the needs, the feelings, the experiences of men and women equally, and also consider women more importantly because they are the ones who are affected mostly and they have a burden of care work as well, which is exacerbated by the impact of climate change. So these are the issues that we bring to the UNFCCC platform, bringing the voices of the local people, what is happening exactly at local level, because it is important that the decisions that are taken at the international level and the policies that are made at national level should be informed by the local voices, the very people who are affected, the very people who are impacted with the climate change. And then in return, as we attend these climate change conferences, we take back the decisions that are taken to the people to say, we brought your challenges, we brought up your challenges to the international platform, and these are the decisions that are taken. This is what is going to happen. As we all know that we all come out of the discouraged, despondent, now it's even difficult when we have to give that message with no hope to the people. However, people are empowered and they don't lose hope, and they are empowered to push for a change, because that is what is motivating them. They want to see a change, they want their voices made, and they want to be part of the planning and decision making. Yeah, I think I'll stop there, Tinda. Thank you so much.
Hey, thank you, Ndivile. Yeah, we still have a little bit more than 20 minutes, so we want to make sure that there's also some time for the discussion, or for anyone in the audience to be able to share some comments or reflections or ask questions. I have so much to say to what you and Mel and Dinda have said before, especially just quickly, I wanted to touch upon the issue of, you saying that how it is important for people, the local groups organizing, or indigenous groups, local communities, to understand what's being decided on climate change, or to understand the language of climate change, of the decisions which are made on the issues that are being worked by these very groups on the ground. So, and this is indeed one of the things that we look for, that we do in this project, that we always try to do, is to try to translate this very inaccessible language, but also inaccessible spaces to our realities, and to what people from our collectives, from our movements already are practicing, because our groups, we are already practicing living climate change, and realizing solutions to climate change our own ways. We might not use the same names that the governments use in their decision making. And sometimes we use another language because not even our languages are reflected there in the decision making. So it is indeed a really important matter of access and justice to be able to make that bridge and recognize the solutions that already exist so much in our society, in our local groups, in our countries. And in that sense, in a specific, I wanted to already bridge to the next question to Shraddha, our colleague from India, and want to ask you, Shraddha, about the movement and the local groups that you participate, or that you support, or that you know in India, and how these groups are actually fighting those injustices that we've been speaking here in the panel, fighting patriarchal norms, and at the same time creating their own collective and autonomous ways or alternatives, to resist climate change, their own ways, when sometimes governments are just too inaccessible, or decision makings are just too inaccessible.
Thanks, Isa. And I was also quite humbled to hear Mel and Ndivile share their experiences on the grounds. What I have been focusing on through our project, as well as the work that I do both with global networks, regional networks, as well as local groups, is try to understand what is it that feminist movements, as well as grassroots movements, require in their struggle against climate change, and also governance and the inaccessibility for decision making and power. So the focus for the video project that was also made as a part of this Not Without Us team's engagement with COP last year was an inquiry with a lot of groups in Kerala, which is the south of India, where I'm based, was to just look at how local communities are involved in implementation, and not just at a consultation level. So like Ndivile said, it's not just having representation in the form of participating in a roundtable discussion, or just getting consent when a particular group, be it governments or companies or agencies who decide to implement a certain project in an area. So I was sort of looking at groups in Kerala, which are led by women or have only women in their decision-making in the decision-making body. And so it could be local self-governments, it could be NGOs, or it could just be community-based organizations or activists. So we sort of spoke to a lot of people who are working actively in environment. And just to see that how were they able to implement the work that they were doing, and how they were able to advocate that as solutions that could be replicated in other communities. It was, I think, the one thread that sort of is common to all these grassroots people who we speak to is that it's become increasingly hard to resource movements which are feminist and which are also I wouldn't call them alternative, but which is not from the mainstream structure of how NGOs usually work in climate change projects. So well, I would just like to share some of the learnings that we had come across through these engagements. So one of the things that a lot of these communities had put forward is that finding expertise within the local context. So of course, it's hard to always have practitioners or experts who are from the constituent group or from the rural grassroots context itself. I mean, but contrary to that assumption that most agencies have, we were able to see that a lot of these women had the capacity to sort of implement a conventional project, you know, which requires monitoring and evaluation. And so all these assumptions that even I had in the beginning of working in this project, that, you know, would it be challenging to find subject matter experts? Would it be hard to find resource persons? Are local communities strengthened enough to implement a project in their context? And what is it, what makes the conventional thinking move from a beneficiary model to seeing them as agents of change, right? And maybe the context in Kerala is a bit more different than the rest of India, but it's still not something that can't be replicated. So what we identified was funding, which is more flexible and core and is actually given to organizations which are self-led and work directly with the constituencies for which the project is being implemented. Those sort of resources really empower and strengthen local communities to take on this challenging scenarios that come down with climate change or environment degradation, right? So we were able to identify solutions which worked on the ground, that were supported and led by local communities or experts and practitioners from the local context. So it's not always that you only can have an international NGO or a large agency. It's not that it has to be top down, but there's a lot of potential from from a bottom-up approach itself, where if communities are strengthened and if they are given the resources to not just be participants or observers, but to actually be people who are taking action through, you know, through projects or campaigns, it is more effective, because nobody else is an expert on their own local context than the people who are from the context itself. And then we also were able to identify that, you know, having innovative and long-term commitments to community-based organizations really, which is what you see from in organizations like Frida or Mama Cash, or a lot of new funding organizations which prioritize community-based work. And then you see that when they are given the power to not just voice their opinions, but also to spend money, to spend time, you know, to have fair forms of employment, and given and strengthen the knowledge sharing which comes from a local or indigenous context, you see that such solutions stick to the community. It's sort of owned by the community. It doesn't become just one of a research paper or just a project presentation. It's something that gets into the lifestyle of the community and stays there. So I think what I wanted to bring to this conversation was that, of course, having talks, having conversations around participation, having sensitive policies, all of that is important. But in our road to achieving climate justice or gender justice, or even just having a fair future, we have to sort of think beyond that. We have to start thinking, we have to start acting on taking these things beyond participation or beyond just researching or voicing our realities. But it's time to just move the money and move resources and have more democratic forms of governance, which enables local communities, especially women, girls, trans and intersex persons, or minorities, and the ones who are at high risk. It's time that we have more agency given to these people to sort of own their realities and identify what works for them, instead of just still deliberating on policy and participation. So yeah, I would just leave us at that thought.
Thank you so much, Srada. And you also raised another, I think, deeper conversations regarding how the importance of using feminist perspective or feminist strategies or feminist ideology in fighting against the climate change or climate crisis. Because, yeah, as we also talk about how the impact of climate change and climate crisis also targeting or have different or specific impact to women or other or even the marginalized persons like indigenous people and many more. So it's really important to have the awareness to see the multi-identity or the intersectional factors is influencing the impact of climate change differently. And of course, we cannot separate the conversations or the struggle regarding the climate justice with other social issues, including patriarchy, because we see that how the climate change it's really related with like economic justice, for example. Like a lot of issues are really interrelated with the climate change issues. And in this fight, we see that what we fight actually is the injustice power structure. So we are talking about the power structure that allow the corporation to grab people's land, to grab and also destroy environment. We are also talking about the power structure that discriminate women and also grabbing women authority. And we are also talking about the power structure in the political. So in many of our, in many places in this world, we also now witness the oppressions and also the undemocratic power running in our governments, for examples. So those issues cannot be separate each other. So to achieve climate justice, we, of course, we really need to see, I mean, especially when we are working with communities, the power dynamic even exists in the community. So in our struggle, when we are talking about the environment issues, resisting the extractive industry, but the thing that we need to address as well is the shift, how to shift the patriarchal relation, for the examples in the community between men, women, and also between class and etc. So we need to address it as well. Otherwise, we cannot achieve what we call as climate justice, because again, there is no climate justice without gender justice. So before we welcome participants to talk more and to share more, I actually have one question, and I expect one of the panel, one of our friends on panels, or probably two of you or probably three of you will tell us more about it, because what we heard since the beginning, that, for the examples, lately Strada said that we need to find the solution that really working on the ground. And Isa also said that actually the communities, the people already have the existing solutions in facing or in addressing the climate crisis. But listening from Mel and also from Defile, we also learned that there is a huge gap between what happening on the ground and also what we discuss on the climate negotiations, such as UNFCCC. So how do you see as a strategy that we can do to connect the local struggle, the local voices, for example, or strategies into the negotiations probably in the national? Well, Defile already tell us some strategies in the national, but I think it's also really important for us, especially probably some of us here also have experiences in UNFCCC and surely working in our national and also our local context. So how do you think you can share something about how to connect the local struggle and strategy into the climate negotiations, whether it's national or international? So I would like to invite Defile, Strada, or Mel, if one of you want to say.
Can I just say something?
Okay, yes.
Sorry, I just want to check back with Pat how much more time we have.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
We only have 6 minutes.
That's correct.
Is it 6 minutes? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can go ahead with the answer, but it would be nice if anyone would like to say something or ask a question to write in the chat. And
okay.
Then yeah.
So how if we keep these questions and then we also waiting for the other participants to ask questions or even respond to that questions. So you can raise your hand or you can also put on the chat box if you have any questions. So I'll check. Yeah, we still we still have no questions on the chat box. Maybe
there is one question. Sorry again. There's one question which was sent by Beatrice Johansson. I can read it out loud, and anyone from the audience could also say something if you like, because now we are running out of time. The question is, in concern to climate policy and decision making, in which sector do you think is most important to be involved from a gender perspective in concern to decision about climate change consequences?
Okay, so Mel, Strada, or Defile, you probably want to respond to questions, and Strada also can respond to chat. Mel, do you want to say something? Yeah,
I can answer very quickly. Sorry. I can answer it very quickly. We found for us is to raise awareness about the connections between climate change and the issues that concern people the most. You have to connect climate change to everyday lives of people. So we are trying hardly to connect climate change to oil extraction, which is the longest, the oldest struggle here in Ecuador, and the connections between how oil extraction affects women, how it imposes a violent regime at the local level, and how this is connected with climate change violence also. And the other strategy that was raised from we participating at COPs, it was that we are building a meso-level movement at the Latin American and the Caribbean platform for climate justice, that we confirmed that this platform like in May, I think, April, May. And we are coming together, people that are concerned about the same things, and gender justice is very, very present. We have women movements inside the platform, migrants movement inside the platform. So I think this meso level between the local level and the international level is very, very important to capture the proposals from the ground, you know, and put it there in the international level. I will leave it there. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mel. You're addressing two questions already. Srada or Defile, and we can also see some people also answer on the chat box, so we can see the chat box as well.
Okay.
Okay, please, Defile.
Yeah, I can quickly add to what Mel was saying. In my opinion, I think it's all sectors that have to be addressed, because when you look at women's issues, especially the care work, it involves everything: water, energy, you know, agriculture, capacity building, training, technology, skills development, and finance. Everything we have to make sure that we integrate a gender component, because women are impacted by all those areas. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, Isa, do you want to? Okay. So we only have 1 minute, but it's really great to see some questions also answered on the chat box. And I also really hope that this is not the end of the conversation, of course. And it's not the beginning of conversations, because we already have several process before this time. And I wonder if we can have one, because there is one question from Julia Peles. So I can read it, and I really hope that the participants can also respond it on chat, or probably one of you can also say something to respond it. So my question is regarding increasing democratic forms of governance. What role do you see regarding digitalizations in this process? Wow, this is something that absolutely related as well with the climate change, but we also need to see something broader to talk about the democratic forms of governance that probably be a challenge in some of our areas, and also something specific like digitalizations in this process. So anyone want response? I don't think it necessarily from the panels, but if any one of you, if you want to say something before we we need to end the sessions. But I think we can have opportunity for one person to talk. Srada also shared the link. Thank you, Srada.
Yeah, I think we have great resources on the chat box. And I also would like to reinforce that we have a new Medium platform where you can all check more about the things that we've been discussing here. And also you can contribute, you can send us your stories. It's supposed to be a collaborative platform of people and collectives working with gender or climate change or both. And we want to give more space and visibility to various stories on different parts of the world in this platform, in any languages and formats as well. It's not only in written format, it can be also artwork. So I will write down the name of the Medium platform again, and then we invite you to join us there and to keep following us. It was a really great pleasure to have you all here. I'm very sorry that the time was short, but again, let's keep in touch on the platform. I would like to thank all the speakers, the colleagues actually, and also Pat for the technical support, for all the participants who made also the conversation in the chat super nice. And we will be in touch, sending you the recordings or making it available in our Medium page. And yeah, we look really much forward to receiving any questions you might have. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Thank you. Have a good day, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.